Hi folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery, and today I just wanted to drop by and do a real quick video for the basics on how to use a quilling husking board. You might have seen this tool before. They're getting a little bit more popular. It's a small piece of plastic and has these little metal pieces that move around. Totally customizable, but it's a little tricky. To start with, I just wanted to show what the box that my board came in, what it looked like. So it's a very thin box. There is some writing on the back with a few pictures, but there really isn't any explanation about how to use it or really anywhere to go once you do get it. But this is what the box looks like as far as the brand that I have. I did get a blue one. I believe when I bought it, it came in either blue or pink, but I did not have a choice. When I ordered it, I just ordered it, and then this is what I got. So you can see there it has the grooves, and then it has some circles for these little pegs. A drawer pulls out of the side, and there are 32 of these small metal pegs, and 2 of them are a slightly different color, but what's important about them is that they are slotted. You can see there. So what they're used for is essentially a starting point for your design. Think of it like the slotted tool when you're doing your standard quilling. The rest of them don't have any sort of difference to them at all. They're just these small little metal pegs. So the drawer is helpful, but these little pegs are kind of unruly. They do roll around a bit. They are very small. So just bear in mind it can be sort of a mess. When I use mine, I do use tweezers often and sometimes a needle tool to lift up my design, and always my squeeze bottle of glue. So when you start using your husking board, you can, like I said, you can customize it any way you want to. If you just put them in a straight line, those pegs act like a quilling comb, which I've demoed a bunch of times. If you put them in a straight line the other way, straight up and down, again, sort of the same idea as a quilling comb. You can spread these out so you can make larger loops than your average quilling comb would do. So you can see there would be more space between the loops. So that's one reason why it's a good thing to have around. If you use a quilling comb often, you might want a little bit more of a variation in the size of the loops that you can make. So that is something you could use this for. So I thought I'd demo real quick one way to use it. I have my little slotted peg here, and I have found it's easiest to put my paper in my peg off of the board. Again, there's no directions for this tool, so a lot of this I sort of figured out what works best for me. This might not be the way you like to do it, but that's what I like to do, is get an idea of where I want to put my pegs and then take out my slotted one. And then the idea is that you wrap the strip around each peg one at a time. And you'll notice that I'm still holding that first slotted peg and the paper on it for a little while, because I found even with wrapping it around the slotted peg a few times, it still could slip out until I get the first couple of rounds going. So you can see there, I wrapped around one, came back to the start, wrapped around the next one, came back to the start, and then wrapped around the third, came back to the start, and now I'm going to tear off my excess, and while it's still on the pegs, I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the end and let that dry for a second. So once that's dried, you can see I use a needle tool to kind of lift the entire shape off of the board, and I can remove my slotted peg, and there you go. It's sort of a basic looped design. You can use these for wings, etc. That's a basic shape you can use for your board. Next, I want to show a little bit more of a complicated pattern. This one's going to end up being sort of a diamond shape. And what you have to do when your pegs are on an angle is just go back and forth, like I just showed with my needle tool. Like always, we're going to start with that slotted peg. So I'm going to take it off my board, give it a couple spins to wrap it around. Sorry about the blurriness there. And then get this set back up where I had it in my design. And then what I'm going to do is go up and around that very center peg. This is where it gets a little tricky when your pegs are so crowded like that, to get it not only between them but also as tight as you need it, because what you don't want is a very loose wrapping job, because then everything gets really wobbly and very crowded looking. So this is what I'm doing here, is trying to make it between the pegs but also make sure that those strips stay nice and tight and don't get wobbly and wrinkly. One trick, if that happens on your center peg, you can give that slotted peg a little turn, and that will tighten up the wrinkles on that peg. So what I'm doing is, after I did the center peg, I went up and around one side, back to the center on the bottom, and then up and around the one next to the middle on the other side, and then back to the bottom. So I just continue back and forth from the center out, going from one side to the other, and always ending back at that slotted peg that I started with. And with a shape like this, when you're done with all your pegs, you can actually wrap that rest of the strip around the back of all your pegs, and that will give you a nice finished look. So what I'm going to do is glue a little bit at the center to keep the beginning of that shape, keep everything nice and tight. And then I'm going to add a little bit of glue on the back of all the strips behind where the pegs are. Pull that strip tight and run the rest of this piece around, making sure to glue the end and pulling everything tight, and that's going to make it look really finished when I pull it off the pegs. There's your finished shape. If that center coil really does bother you, you can always use tweezers or a needle tool and a little bit of glue to kind of shape it into more of a flat piece, or just leave it as part of your design. It's totally up to you. If it really does bother you, that's always an option. This last demonstration is where we start to go a little bit more adventurous with our design. So I have sort of a flying V shape here with another row in the center, and I'm going to be using 3 different colors of quilling paper, and 2 of them are going to go in the center, and then 1 is going to go back and forth for those 2 outside angled pieces. So again, this is just a little bit more of a design, nothing too crazy, but for beginners this is a great way to use your board to get more of an intricate design. So I'm starting with this pink strip that's giving me a little bit of grief here on the slotted tool, or slotted peg, sorry, excuse me. So once I finally get that in place, I'm going to put it back onto my board and start wrapping around the first 2 pegs. So this is going to look like that purple one I did in the very beginning. So I'm going to wrap up and back around the first time, and then do another peg as well. After the center peg, I'm going to come back to the bottom, tear off my excess, and glue it into place. And I'm ready to start the second color now. You can see I've glued some of the yellow to the bottom of the coils of pink. So I'm going to make sure I go in the same direction, and I'm going to go up to the third peg and then back down to the bottom. And then I'm going to continue with the other ones in the same way as I did the first color. And now we can do that last color. So I have glued my orange to the bottom, just like I did with the last color, the yellow. And now for this one, I want to make sure that I go to the inside of the peg and then wrap it around that way, because that's the only way it's going to get me back down to the bottom. Without, if you try to do it the other way, you'd realize real quick that you'd run into your loop before you got to the bottom. So we're going to go to the inside of the pins on these ones and then back out. Yep, and then down to the bottom, and then back to the other side, inside of the pin, back out to the bottom. And we're going to go back and forth all the way until we are done all the pegs on both sides. After I tear off the excess, I'm going to glue the rest down to the end and let that dry for a minute. Once it's dry, we can turn it into its final shape. For this design, I'm not going to wrap anything around the outside. I'm going to start pulling the pegs out very, very carefully. And I would leave my finger here where they all join up, because you can see right after I take all these pegs out, it's going to want to sort of start to unravel. What I should have done is used my tweezers and grabbed the entire center there and held it all together. But I ended up letting it go because I wanted to show how easy it was to put it back together if that does happen to you. Not the end of the world. You can see where the bends are in every single piece, and it folds right back up together again. So what we're going to look for is making sort of a flower petal. And I'm going to make that by simply bending those two orange wings back up towards the center and adding a little bit of glue wherever the orange is going to meet either the yellow or another part of the orange. So just a few dots of glue there, and you can see very quickly how it all comes together. Just hold it for a second. If you have tweezers, you can use them sort of like a clamp. And that is just about, oh, there goes my tweezers. That's just about it. So that is your 3-color flower petal. The good thing about the husking board is that if you were to making a lot of these, you could just leave your pegs in. Once you have it set up, leave your pegs in and make a bunch of them. You don't have to rearrange your board every couple of minutes. You can use it and go. One of the cons I feel like is that my pegs fall out a lot. When I touch them with another finger, they pull out of their holes. That can be sort of annoying. But I don't use this tool very often, so that might just be user error on my part. But all in all, for a tool that's under $10, I think it's sort of fun to play with, and I would definitely pick it up if you haven't already. So I hope that helped answer a few questions. I'm gonna be planning on making a few more of these husking board videos because, like I said, there's a million things that this can do. And I'm also gonna be making a video to use the grooves at the bottom of my board. It has these horizontal and vertical little grooves cut out on the bottom. I just want to demo what that can do as well. If you have any thoughts on the husking board, if you have used one in the past, go ahead and leave your experiences down below in the comments. I'd love to hear about them. Oh, also I want to mention, if you go looking for a husking board of your own, I will leave a link to the one that I have. But if you don't use that link and you go looking for one, note it might be called a knitting board, a quilling knitting board instead. I don't know exactly why, but husking board or knitting board, same tool. So again, feel free to like and subscribe if you would like to. That's always helpful. And we will see you. There could probably not a million, but maybe someday. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.